What's poppin' guys, and welcome back to episode 2 of 3 Ways to Build. If you've been subscribed to my channel, then you already probably have seen episode 1 in which we constructed this cute little two-door house. Now it is time to look at a completely different kind of Minecraft build. As you probably saw in the title of today's video, we are going to be looking at wizard towers, the tall, mystical, magical stone towers that everybody loves to create in Minecraft. And you can see I've put together the basic one already. As a reminder of how this series works, we're going to be looking at 3 different designs for a wizard tower: basic, insane, and balanced. Now you might be wondering, dude, this wizard tower actually really doesn't look that bad. You know, it's got like some nice texturing and it's a pretty good size and everything. It's definitely not as lame as the basic two-door house design from the last video. But here's the thing about this one, right? It's just all gray. And like, if you like that, that's fine, but we're making a wizard tower. It's like magical and full of, you know, mystical, wacky enchantments and whatever. It's supposed to be all kooky and weird and colorful and stuff, and this gray just like is not it. So rather than take a look at like size and level of detail in this build, we're going to be taking a look at how to add a color. All these materials are survival friendly, which is a nice bonus to making a tower in this style, but like it's so drab and gray, and it's like it's an alright design, but we can do a lot better. In the insane design, we're going to be going completely nuts with the detail, complexity, and in this case, the color used in our build is going to be totally unrealistic for Minecraft survival, unless you're insane, but it's going to look really cool. So let's go check it out. Okay, that was a lot of fun, but we've got a whole lot to unpack here, so let's get right into that. First of all, oh man, what a grind this was to get this entire thing put together. I really hope you enjoyed the time lapse. The idea behind this whole build is that I wanted to, you know, take the idea of a wizard tower and have something go horribly wrong. Like I'm thinking, you know, whoever lived in this tower was maybe getting a little too funky with their dark magics and, you know, opened a portal to somewhere they probably shouldn't have. And the entire area just kind of sinks into the ground. Weird, like, blood red tentacles just kind of start reaching out of these like tears in the fabric of reality down here, and they start just kind of climbing up the tower, trying to just consume everything around them. So you've got this totally like hellscape down here with the smoke and the various different colors of dark rock, and to And of course up here we've got all the dark red of these weird tentacle things contrasting with the green of like the lush forest around the tower. And even on the tentacles themselves, right, we've got this kind of cool gradient going on. We start with, right, the crimson wood, right? And as it moves further upwards, as we get closer to like the ends of the tendrils, we switch over to the netherwort block, and I'm slowly introducing them as we kind of snake our way upwards. And all the way at the end, I've got the red glazed terracotta and the red concrete, just as sort of like feelers or antenna-like appendage kind of things, just to add a little bit of extra creepiness. We've got some detailing going on here, where everywhere that these tendrils have touched, there's a little bit of the black terracotta, just to make it seem like they're almost kind of scouring the tower or burning it in some weird way, like their influence is kind of corrupting it. And then all the way up here, I really wanted to build with beacons. I wanted to have a really nice color contrast between the light of like the purity and magic of this kind of prism up here. I was thinking about like how, you know, glass can reflect light and make it a bunch of different colors, so I decided to put a thing in the middle to kind of split the light into a bunch of different colors of the rainbow. So yeah, I'm imagining like this is some sort of like core crystal or something of the tower that's kind of being jettisoned by these beams. Like the beams are pushing it out of the tower as the entire thing is being overtaken by these hell tendrils or whatever is going on down here. So it's kind of just being, you know, lifted out of the top of the tower here. Whoever is in there just desperately trying to abandon this place before it becomes completely infested with all this gross stuff down here. So yeah, I really hope you guys like this build. It was a huge grind to put together, even in creative mode. So what if we took some lessons from both of our builds, right? We have in our basic build something survival friendly, and in this one we've got a really nice use of color and detail to create something very imaginative and frankly very creepy in a good way. Let's try and take what we've learned from both of these different builds to make our third and final wizard tower, which is the balanced one. And here is our balance build. Like I was just talking about, I feel like it's a really nice blending of the previous two towers we were just looking at. We're still maintaining an overall like vaguely towery kind of shape. We don't have a huge massive build that takes a million hours to construct all around us. We don't have like a big crater or anything. And we've got some nice texturing going on, which is very reminiscent of the first build with this whole gradient thing. But on the other hand, we're introducing a lot more interesting colors, which was definitely a feature of the second build. I mean, we've got this whole gradient going on from green to gray into lighter gray, and then all the way up to actually quartz, which is a very light white color. And of course, we got the bits of green at the bottom and the weird, like, you know, demon tentacle weird tendril things all around this build as well. I really liked how they looked in the previous build, so I figured adding these in here would be a really great way of tying them together. I think the shape is also really interesting, right? We've got these like funny little details with the tendrils and stuff providing a little bit of shape, but if you just look at the tower itself, right, like the actual structure, we've got this cool little secondary area over here which provides some nice balance and allows me to make this tower kind of slant a little bit. I wanted to make something, you know, a little bit kooky and a little bit wonky, if you will. I think this does it very well because, you know, we can have this bit of a slant here going on to kind of push everything to one side, and then we've got this secondary tower here providing some balance. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it doesn't really need to for a magical wizard tower that's infested with, you know, demon tentacles or whatever. It really doesn't need to make sense. So like we did in the previous episode, I think I'll go ahead and give you guys a quick little build tutorial for this one. Now keep in mind that because of all the different like texturing things we've got going on here and all of the different gradients, I really can't give you guys a block by block build tutorial because that would take entirely too much time. Rather, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split up this build into different segments, and for each one I'll explain the block palette, and you guys will kind of just have to put in your own block gradient as you go along. You know, it doesn't have to match block by block. It'll all be good, guys. I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. Let's get into the build tutorial. So first up, making the foundation bit here, this kind of like drum shaped structure at the bottom. We're gonna start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna repeat this pattern going around until we make a circle. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna raise up the entire thing so it's 7 blocks tall. You can see the 7 blocks right here. And we're gonna be using the texture gradient that you can see in my hotbar going from moss all the way up to andesite. Okay, our block gradient is in place. Now we're gonna do the detailing at the very bottom. We're not gonna do any of the red, you know, demon tentacle stuff yet. That's gonna come in a little bit later. You can see I've already kind of started it by doing the vines, and we're leaving a hole here because that's where this whole tentacle thing is gonna be protruding from. Okay, details are in. As you can see, it's really just a collection of azalea leaves and vines. Nothing too crazy, so I didn't really bother showing it all on camera. Okay, next up we're doing the roof, which is just, as you can see, another weird collection of textures. So it's going to be hard to really like explain this step by step, but just go ahead and watch the replay. Hopefully that will make a lot more sense. Okay, there is our roof. I know it looks really weird right now, and that's because we still need to do this funky little slanty bit over on this side. Now we're going to be using the next part of our block gradient, right? We're actually going to be starting with stone and then going into andesite, light gray wool, and light gray concrete powder. So it's going to be a little weird. I'd say just, you know, sit back, watch the replay, and hopefully it'll make a little bit of sense. I apologize if it doesn't. And there's our slanty bit all taken care of. You can see very clearly there how we're using this texture gradient going from a little bit of stone at the bottom through andesite and the light gray wool all the way up to the light gray concrete powder in the top. Next up, what we're going to be doing is we're going to add this cool little kind of like weird drippy, I'm not really sure what you would call this, but it kind of sits on the top of this section. Also serves as a really nice segue to go from the lighter gray textures up past the roof into our white textures up here. And that's how you do the roof of the middle section here. And now with our little bit of weird red stuff in place, kind of taking over the roof, we're going to go and do the final section of the main tower, which is using the remainder of the blocks in our block palette. So we're going from diorite at the very bottom, up through calcite, white wool, up to white concrete powder, and then we have another layer of quartz. Alright, the first part of the top tower is in, and I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but I apologize if my voice sounds a little bit weird. I'm just a little bit congested from a random bout of allergies, unfortunately. Be like that sometimes, you know? But anyways, moving on, we're now gonna tackle the main kind of penthouse antechamber up here, which is really cool. It's made entirely out of quartz, pretty much. So we're gonna be using a mixture of quartz bricks, and then of course, smooth quartz mainly, but I did sprinkle in a little bit of the regular quartz blocks. And actually, with that done, we might as well move on to our little secondary tower here before we go and do the two roofs. I love this little thing. There's not really much detail, or rather any detail on the inside, but it's really cute. And not only is it cool, and you know, we have a little bit more of that texture gradient going on here, but it really balances out the tower. You know, everything's leaning to the left. Now we have this thing to kind of act as a counterweight. Would it actually be supported by two little flimsy pieces of black stone? Probably not, but that doesn't matter. It's a magical wizard tower, right? Okay guys, just two more segments to do, and then we are completely done with recreating this build. First up is the roofs at the top. You'll notice that these are entirely just using deep slate tiles as opposed to a mixture of the tiles and the black stone. My reasoning behind this is because I was imagining that these upper reaches of the tower, near where like, you know, the actual wizard guy hangs out, are probably not as corrupted by whatever like demonic tentacle things have kind of invaded the rest of the tower down below. I'm also using a lot of walls here because personally I really like using walls when you're creating a really like tall slopey roof design. I feel like for roof designs that are more horizontal, you know, slabs and stairs are great, but walls actually work very, very well for these kind of tall, skinny ones going on here. And with the roof in place, to be honest, we could stop here, right? Like you could remove all that crimson stuff and then you'd have a pretty cool wizard tower right there. But if we've learned anything from our insane build, we know that just white and gray and dark gray really isn't a complete build in my opinion in terms of the amount of color used. Like sure, it can work for some builds, but for something as, you know, magical and weird as a wizard tower, a couple additional colors really make it work. So let's finish off this build with the home stretch of adding all of the weird tendril things, and then we'll be all finished. And there you have it. I didn't bother doing a replay for this last one because, you know, we're really just moving all over the place across the entire build, so it would have been a pretty messy replay. But yeah, there's our tower, completely reconstructed. I hope this build tutorial was somewhat helpful. With the sheer amount of texture gradients and like weird block mixing going on, it's very hard to make a easy to understand build tutorial for something like this, but I really hope you guys enjoyed it regardless. If you liked this video and the various builds that I showed off, please consider leaving a like down below, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Until next time, this has been Leon, and I will see you all in the next 3 Ways to Build video. Take care, my dudes.